There are radio stations all over the world that no one has ever claimed ownership of. They broadcast endless streams of numbers, eerie voices, and strange melodies, 24 hours a day. They are called numbers stations. To understand this mystery, you first have to understand the medium: shortwave radio. Unlike the local FM stations in your car, shortwave signals possess a unique power. They can travel thousands of miles, bouncing between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, crossing oceans and continents with ease. For most of the 20th century, this was the invisible thread connecting the world, a global stage for international news, cultural programs, and propaganda. But hidden within these familiar frequencies, something else was broadcasting. Something strange and deeply unsettling. First discovered during the Cold War, these mysterious broadcasts appeared on shortwave frequencies, occupying the quiet, forgotten corners of the dial. They weren't listed in any official broadcast guide. They simply were. Those who stumbled upon them were met not with music or conversation, but with an unnerving and rigid structure. Often, a broadcast would begin with an interval signal, a snippet of a folk song, a series of electronic tones, or a few bars from a classical melody played on a loop. This was the station's calling card, a way to signal to a specific listener to prepare to receive a message. Then, the music would stop, and a voice would begin. Listeners would hear robotic voices, sometimes a monotone male, sometimes a clipped, synthetic female, and sometimes, most chillingly, the voice of a child, reading endless sequences of numbers or phonetic letters. Achtung, 5, 2, 0, 7, 1. The delivery was cold, devoid of any emotion or inflection, simply a stream of raw data spoken into the void. The purpose? Officially, there was none. When questioned, governments on both sides of the Iron Curtain offered only silence or outright denial. Governments never admitted they existed. These stations were ghosts in the machine, phantoms of the airwaves that no intelligence agency, from the CIA to the KGB, would ever claim. They were a global, open secret. The broadcasts were too organized, too persistent, and too expensive to be a prank. The powerful transmitters required to send a signal around the world cost millions to build and operate. Someone was behind them, pouring immense resources into sending these cryptic messages day after day, year after year. Yet anyone with a shortwave radio could hear them. From a clandestine listening post in West Berlin to a teenager's bedroom in Ohio, the numbers were accessible to all, but understood by almost none. This was their genius and their terror, a message hidden in plain sight, broadcast to the entire world, yet intended for an audience of only one. The question that haunted every listener who tuned in was not just who was sending them, but for whom were they meant, and what secrets did the numbers hold? Of all the theories surrounding these phantom broadcasts, one has persisted with unwavering conviction, rooted in the shadowy conflicts of the 20th century. The most widely accepted explanation is that number stations were a tool of espionage, a covert communication system for sending coded instructions to spies operating deep within foreign territory. Imagine a lone agent, isolated in a hostile city, thousands of miles from home. Their only lifeline is a simple, commercially available shortwave radio. At a prearranged time, on a specific frequency, they tune in. Through the crackle of static, they don't hear a friendly voice or a familiar melody. They hear only a cold, detached stream of numbers. This wasn't just communication. It was a ghost in the machine, a one-way conversation that left no trace. The genius of the system lay in its cryptographic foundation, the one-time pad. Each number broadcasted corresponded to a letter or a word, decipherable only with a unique, single-use key. This key, a physical pad of paper filled with random numbers, was issued to the agent before their mission. An identical copy was kept securely at their home agency. Once a page was used to decode a message, it was destroyed forever. Without the correct key, the string of numbers was mathematically unbreakable, a meaningless jumble of digits to any enemy intelligence service that might be listening in. It was the perfect method for clandestine work, untraceable, anonymous, and offering complete plausible deniability. During the height of the Cold War, the airwaves were a battleground. It's almost certain that agencies like the CIA, the KGB, and Britain's MI6 were the architects behind these broadcasts. The signals often originated from transmitters located on heavily fortified military bases, yet no government has ever officially admitted to operating a numbers station. This silence is part of the design. By using public airwaves, the transmissions were hidden in plain sight, their purpose obscured by a veil of official denial and public ignorance. This theory explains the past, but it creates a disturbing puzzle for the present. The Cold War is over. The spies have supposedly come home. So the question remains, a persistent echo in the static. Why are some of them still broadcasting, even today? Over the decades, as amateur radio hobbyists and intelligence agencies alike tuned into these phantom broadcasts, some stations began to emerge from the static, not just as signals, but as legends. They were given names, their patterns were studied, and their broadcasts became events, followed by a dedicated global community of listeners hanging on every digit. These weren't just random transmissions, they developed personalities, each with its own unique and often deeply unsettling character. Among the most famous was a station nicknamed the Lincolnshire Poacher. Its broadcast would begin not with a sterile tone, but with the first two bars of an old English folk song of the same name. The cheerful, almost jaunty melody created a bizarre and deeply ironic prelude to its true purpose. Following the tune, a woman's voice, crisp, clear, and with a polite English accent reminiscent of a classic BBC announcer, would begin to read strings of 5-digit number groups. The contrast between the pleasant voice and the cold, meaningless data was profoundly unnerving. Intelligence experts widely believe this station was operated by Britain's Secret Intelligence Service, MI6. Its transmitter was traced to RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus, a strategic military base perfectly positioned to send encrypted messages to agents operating throughout the Middle East and Eastern Europe. For years, it was a reliable, almost comforting presence in the ether, until one day in 2008, it simply vanished, leaving only the memory of its haunting melody. Then there is the monolith of the numbers station world, the buzzer. Known officially as UVB-76, this Russian station is less a broadcast and more a permanent feature of the shortwave landscape. Since at least 1982, it has emitted a short, monotonous buzzing tone, repeating roughly 25 times per minute, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is a constant, dreary hum that has been the soundtrack to the fall of the Soviet Union and the rise of modern Russia. For listeners, the real event is when the buzzing stops. The sudden, deafening silence is a signal that something is about to happen. Moments later, a live voice, often sounding rushed or distorted, breaks through the static. They read cryptic messages in Russian, usually a call sign followed by a series of numbers and code words like bromak or nastavnik. These rare voice transmissions are believed to be part of Russia's military communications network, possibly to alert forces or transmit strategic commands. The station has even changed locations over the years, but it has never ever gone silent for long. The buzzer always returns, but perhaps the most disturbing of all the famous stations is the one known as Swedish Rhapsody. Its broadcast began with the tinkling, innocent melody of a music box, a tune taken from a composition by the Swedish composer Hugo Alfvén. The melody would play on a loop, creating a dreamlike, almost nostalgic atmosphere. Then, a voice would emerge, seemingly that of a small child speaking in German. It would recite numbers, slowly and deliberately, before the music box faded back in. the image it conjured, a lost child, broadcasting coded messages from an unknown, lonely place, made it the stuff of nightmares for listeners. But the truth is even stranger. Analysis of the voice revealed it wasn't a child at all, but an early speech-generating machine, a mechanical device that synthesized the high-pitched cadence. Believed to be operated by the Polish Ministry of Public Security, it sent messages to its spies in the West for decades. The station is now gone, but its legend persists as a chilling example of how these clandestine operations could weaponize innocence itself, creating a signal so eerie it felt like a ghost in the machine. Some think they're ghost signals, lost transmissions that never turned off. Others claim they're part of secret psychological experiments or messages to other dimensions. No one knows for sure, because every attempt to trace their origin leads to nothing but static. Even today, hundreds of shortwave listeners record these strange signals every day. Some appear for hours, then vanish forever. Others have been on the air for decades, transmitting to no one, or maybe to someone who's still listening. So next time you turn a radio dial and hear a distant voice whispering numbers, don't adjust it. You may have just tuned in to one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries, the Numbers Station mystery.